Welcome to the second episode of our series, Shadows of War, the Origins of World War II, the Rise of Fascism and Nazism. What if one man's words could turn millions into fanatics? What if entire nations willingly gave up freedom for the promise of greatness? In the 1920s and 30s, Europe was fertile ground for dangerous new movements. Born out of anger, fear, and broken promises, fascism and Nazism rose to dominate Italy, Germany, and Spain. These weren't just political parties. They were machines of ideology, propaganda, and violence, reshaping societies and preparing for war. How did Mussolini march into Rome without resistance? How did Hitler transform a defeated Germany into a dictatorship in just a few years? And how did Franco turn Spain into a battleground of ideologies? Today we uncover the rise of fascism and Nazism and how dictators built their power on the ruins of democracy.
Italy emerged from World War I on the winning side, but the victory felt hollow. Italy had expected large territorial gains, but received little. Soldiers returned to unemployment, inflation skyrocketed, and strikes and protests shook the country. Amid this chaos, Benito Mussolini, once a socialist journalist, seized the moment. In 1919, he founded the Fasci di Combattimento, combining nationalism, militarism, and a hatred of socialism. His followers, known as the Black Shirts, stormed through cities, breaking up strikes, intimidating political opponents, and spreading violence in the streets. To many, they seemed like the only force capable of restoring order. By October 1922, Mussolini staged the march on Rome. Thousands of black shirts gathered, and instead of resisting, King Victor Emmanuel III gave in, inviting Mussolini to form a government. It was a bloodless coup, a democracy surrendering to dictatorship. Over the next few years, Mussolini dismantled democratic institutions. Political parties were banned, the press was censored, and secret police silenced dissent. Fascism became Italy's new creed, glorifying the nation above all, exalting the military, and worshipping the leader, Il Duce. Mass rallies, slogans, and control of education turned Italians into loyal subjects. Mussolini presented fascism as modern, dynamic, and destined to restore the glory of the Roman Empire.
While Mussolini built his fascist state in Italy, Germany was crumbling under the weight of defeat. The Treaty of Versailles had stripped Germany of land, military strength, and pride. Reparations crushed the economy. In the early 1920s, hyperinflation spiraled so badly that ordinary Germans carried baskets of banknotes just to buy bread. It was in this chaos that Adolf Hitler, a bitter veteran of the First World War, found his purpose. He joined the German Workers' Party, transforming it into the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. Hitler's speeches electrified crowds. He blamed Germany's defeat not on the battlefield, but on betrayal from within, the so-called stab in the back myth. Jews, communists, and the Versailles Treaty became his scapegoats. In 1923, Hitler tried to seize power in the beer hall putsch in Munich. The coup failed, and Hitler was arrested. But prison gave him time to write Mein Kampf, a manifesto calling for racial purity, destruction of Versailles, and expansion into Eastern Europe for Lebensraum, living space. At first, the Nazis were a fringe movement, but when the Great Depression struck in 1929, everything changed. German banks collapsed, businesses shut down, and millions lost their jobs. Democracy looked weak, incapable of solving the crisis. The Nazis promised simple answers: jobs, national pride, and revenge. They used powerful propaganda, parades, and rallies to create the image of a strong, unified Germany under Hitler's leadership. By 1933, Hitler was appointed chancellor. Within months, the Reichstag fire gave him an excuse to crush communists, and the Enabling Act gave him absolute power. Democracy was dead. Germany was now the Third Reich. Under Joseph Goebbels, Nazi propaganda saturated daily life. Radios blared Hitler's speeches, posters glorified the Führer, and massive rallies at Nuremberg created an atmosphere of awe and unity. The Nazis didn't just control politics, they sought to control minds. Schools taught racial ideology. The Hitler Youth prepared children to be loyal soldiers. Step by step, freedom disappeared, replaced by obedience and fanaticism.
Meanwhile, Spain was sliding into crisis. Deep divisions between conservatives, monarchists, Republicans, and left-wing groups tore the country apart. In 1936, General Francisco Franco launched a military coup against Spain's elected Republican government. What followed was the brutal Spanish Civil War. This conflict wasn't just about Spain. It became a proxy war of ideologies. The Republicans, supported by communists and international volunteers, fought against Franco's nationalists, who were backed by fascist Italy and Nazi Germany. Germany sent the Condor Legion, an air unit that tested new bombing tactics. In 1937, the town of Guernica was bombed into ruins, shocking the world. Picasso's painting of the same name captured the horror of modern warfare. By 1939, Franco's forces won. Spain became a dictatorship under El Caudillo, aligned with fascist ideology. Though Franco kept Spain neutral during World War II, his regime was another victory for authoritarianism. Though Mussolini, Hitler, and Franco ruled different nations, their methods were strikingly similar. The leader as the nation. The cult of personality portrayed Mussolini as Il Duce, Hitler as the Führer, and Franco as El Caudillo. Each claimed to embody the will of the people. Rejection of democracy. They dismissed democracy as weak, corrupt, and incapable of solving crises. Militarism and discipline. Armies, parades, and youth organizations glorified war and obedience. Propaganda and control. Posters, radio, film, and censorship shaped public opinion and eliminated opposition. Violence and fear. Secret police, prisons, and purges silenced anyone who resisted. These regimes promised pride and stability, but they built their power on repression, propaganda, and fear. By the late 1930s, Europe was dominated by dictatorships, each preparing for greater ambitions, and none more dangerous than Hitler's. By 1939, Mussolini ruled Italy, Hitler ruled Germany, and Franco ruled Spain. Fascism and Nazism had spread across Europe, reshaping societies and silencing opposition. But while dictators tightened their grip on Europe, another rising power was looking eastward. Across Asia, Japan was carving out its own empire, seizing territory and clashing with China. How did this island nation, with so few natural resources, challenge giants and begin its march to war? That's the story of our next episode, Japan's Road to Empire. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more history-related videos like this.